This is Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis.
It's a Sunday edition. It's a celebration Sunday for many. Happy Easter. Hope you're enjoying with family and friends. Did you get chocolate? It's also a new month today. We'll get into that and stuff briefly. Busy couple of hours straight ahead with lots to talk about surrounding the National Hockey League. We have a full Saturday slate with 12 games. There's another 5 coming up on Sunday as we launch into the final week of the NHL regular season. And a whole bunch to get into with Jason Mackey from the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette. Pens are in. They clinched yesterday. 12 straight seasons now for the Pittsburgh Penguins. We'll talk about that. Alison Lukan covering the Columbus Blue Jackets for The Athletic in Cleveland. Alison's done some really good pieces recently. We'll talk a little bit about that. Plus, the Blue Jackets may be one of the sort of sneaky surprise teams in the first round of the playoffs and beyond. Going to be interesting to see how the Columbus Blue Jackets progress. They made some kind of low-key acquisitions near the trade deadline. They seem to have worked out very well for the team, though. Also coming up on the program today, Josh Cooper covering the... My understanding is it's the Los Angeles Kings, but our producer, Chelsea Clyde, had a very funny typo or autocorrect moment in listing the lineup today, as apparently it's the Los Angeles Kongs, and I haven't been able to stop laughing about it since I read it the first time. So Josh Cooper will join us to talk about the Los Angeles Kings and the Los Angeles Kongs later on in the show. And also, we're happy to have her back covering the NHL. Abbey Mastracco now covering the New Jersey Devils. She has changed coast. She has changed back to hockey. She will join us as well. And by proxy this week, it is Stephen Laidlaw, the managing editor from DobberHockey.com, with this week's Fantasy 5. Steve needed some time and wanted to spend it with his family, and good for him. We're okay with that, so we'll have the Fantasy 5, hashtag Fantasy 5 by proxy. At Hockey Unfiltered, at Todd Lewis Sports, the Twitter and Instagram handles to reach us. We're here every Saturday and Sunday, 11 Eastern, 8 a.m. Pacific, powered by Primetime Radio, and a lot to get into after a busy Saturday in the National Hockey League. As I mentioned, 12 games. If you're enjoying a nice weekend, a long weekend, a weekend of celebration, good for you. We hope you have a terrific one. But before we go too far, we flipped the calendar last night, and we go from March out of the first quarter of 2018 into the next quarter and a new month in April. You will not be hearing things over the next little while on this program like Connor McDavid has decided to quit hockey and take up archery or something like that. You will not be hearing things like the NHL has immediately voted to either outlaw or to mandate fighting in every game. No April Fool stuff here. I don't know. I was never big into it, but it's not going to happen here because there's a lot of other good things to get into and a lot of stuff to talk about. What we had yesterday just sort of encapsulates all that makes up the NHL. The 12 games that started in the afternoon, rolled right through. We had a couple of afternoon contests, finished up late in the evening. If you're in the Eastern time zone, there were teams that clinched playoff positions. Some took steps closer to getting into the postseason, although not fully 100% mathematical according to the calculations that need to take place. Others took steps in the other direction that sort of 100% eliminated them from postseason contention, although we can pretty much see what's going to happen now. Some really beautiful, really skillful plays, along with some of the not-so-nice stuff about the NHL. We had a full plate yesterday. So some of the good stuff from yesterday. Let's talk about the happy bedtime story that has been the Vegas Golden Knights all season long. Hosting their division rival, San Jose Sharks, in a game where the Vegas Golden Knights simply needed a single point, and that would clinch them top spot in their division. Well, Vegas, as they have done all season long, kind of went above and beyond, and not just in the game, but it happened pregame as well. After their amazing opening night at home, the inaugural home season, their first ever home game after the tragic shooting in October in Las Vegas, the team demonstrated that they still remember. The love still continues. The support continues to flow as the Vegas Golden Knights retired number 58 last night and raised a banner with 58 stars on it at T-Mobile Arena. A beautiful gesture. Really, that's top notch. That is just something special, and good for them. Then in the game, Vegas, once again, as they have done all season, they have continued to amaze, they have continued to surprise. And in this game against the San Jose Sharks, they're division rivals, and San Jose's got a tremendous record against the Pacific Division. The Vegas Golden Knights only need a single point to clinch top spot. They're about midway through the third period, and the Sharks are on a power play, and they're perhaps getting the opportunity to get the goal that will put them ahead. What happens in this game is, of course, Vegas does what Vegas does and has been doing all season, as Wild Bill William Karlsson collects the puck, pokes it past San Jose defenseman Brett Burns, and heads towards the San Jose goal. Karlsson then scores his team-leading 42nd goal. It is a short-handed goal that gives his team the lead with a little more than halfway left in the third period. This is not just any short-handed goal, though. This is one that has you smiling, that has you shaking your head in disbelief, but shows what we should be seeking from every player in every game on a nightly basis. Superior skill, tremendous display of dexterity and creativity that we look for and smile when we see it. Sharks goaltender Martin Jones is reaching out and tries to put a poke check on Karlsson and get the puck away from him before he can make a move and before he has a chance to get a shot on goal and have that opportunity. So when the goaltender Jones reaches out to try the poke check on Bill Karlsson, he sees what's happening and then reacts to it. He shifts the puck away from the goaltender between his legs and pops it into the top of the net. It is a tremendous goal. It is one you will be seeing on highlights for quite some time, probably for the balance of the season. It'll be in the best of plays of the year. It'll be in the best of plays of the regular season and the like. And no, despite what some loudmouths have suggested with this goal, or even going back to the one in 2013 with Tomas Hertl of the San Jose Sharks, who did the same thing, same kind of play, it wasn't showing off as some idiots suggest. It is making a play that those of lesser talent, lesser creative ability cannot even imagine making. And we're seeing it more and more in the NHL. As the level of skill continues to elevate, we'll see more of it, and I'm all for it because it is something special to watch. But Wild Bill scores the goal, turns out to be the game winner. Of course it does, because you couldn't have anything that spectacular not be the game winner. Golden Knights, division champs in their inaugural season. And now we await the first round of the Stanley Cup playoffs with Vegas Golden Knights. And what's next? What else can they do to amaze us in the balance of the season? It almost doesn't matter. I mean, their season already, even if they go out quickly in the postseason, it doesn't matter. Year one of the Vegas Golden Knights has been an overwhelming success. I don't know what you do for the playoffs. I don't know who they match up against. I think that's going to be important to see. Depending on what kind of a matchup they get in the first round of the postseason, that'll dictate what kind of success they can have. We've been hearing more and more talk about, the game changes during the playoffs. You have to play a harder game, have to play a more physical game. A lot of that from the less than elite level skill analysts that are employed on TV and radio and other media. But I'm interested to see, it's going to be an interesting story to watch Vegas into the playoffs. Can the magic continue? Doesn't matter. It's already an overwhelming success. And you know what this also does? This sets the bar really high for Seattle whenever they come into the NHL. That'll be the next team. It's 2-3 years away, whatever it works out to be. But they have set the bar really high for Seattle. At the GM meetings a while back, they already said, yes, going to be a similar expansion draft. You can plan for it now. This is what we're looking forward to. But Seattle, the focus is going to be on you when you show up. Bruins made another statement on Saturday. They had a 5-1 victory over the Florida Panthers, the first of 3 games for these two teams against one another over the final week of the NHL regular season. Bruins want to be first in the Atlantic. They continue to roll despite all the injury difficulties that they've had to deal with for so much of this season. Tampa took a top spot back when they had a victory on Friday. Didn't stay there long, though, as the Boston Bruins rolled over the Florida Panthers and came up with a 5-1 victory. It looks like Florida's out of gas. If you were with us yesterday, we were talking a bit about this. I just don't see Florida making it. They're still behind and trying to climb into the playoffs in the final week with such a difficult schedule, a couple of back-to-back games, a tough schedule of 3 against Boston, who are trying for top spot in their division, plus they get Nashville this week. That's tough. There's no shame in that. They had a terrific second half of the year. Right after the All-Star break, Florida really took off. And I think this puts them back on track to be the team that we were expecting them to be starting again next season. This was the fix-it year. Last year was the F-it year, but a different kind of Florida, because they made a big mess of it. This was the fix-it year. And for Boston, look out. A couple of months ago, I mentioned that for the first time, could they overtake Tampa? Because Boston was really hitting their stride as we got into 2018. Tampa had endured some injury difficulty. Victor Hedman missed some time, and they were on cruise control after ripping up the start of the season. And every time Boston got close, they would fade back a little bit, and then they would get close again, and they would fade back a bit. But now it seems like it might be the Boston Bruins who take top spot in that division. Seemed unlikely, but we got a week to go, and here's what's happening. Boston's got 5 games remaining, which is a lot. And it starts today in Philadelphia, and they're going to be without Riley Nash, who was hit in the head with a puck yesterday in the game against Florida. And they're also going to be without Brandon Carlo, who suffered a nasty injury. No definitive word on what it is yet. Lower body, ankle, leg, something, but had to be assisted from the ice on a stretcher, and that's tough. But they've battled through injuries all season. So Boston gets Philly today, Tampa on Tuesday, Thursday they're in Florida versus the Panthers, then home to host Ottawa, and Florida one more time. That's 5 for the Boston Bruins, and they're ahead right now. Tampa has 4 games remaining. They host the Nashville Predators tonight, Sunday night. Then the game against Boston, as I mentioned, on Tuesday. They get the Sabres on Friday, and then they are in Carolina on Saturday. Got to give the inside edge to the Boston Bruins. Extra game, 1 point ahead, entering play on Sunday. It's a tough schedule for Boston in that they've got a lot of games. Tampa's got some very winnable games. Buffalo, Carolina, especially in the last day of the season. But they got Nashville and Boston. This is going to be fun to watch. This is going to be interesting to watch going down the stretch. But it looks like Boston could be tracking to take that division, and that would mean a Tampa-Toronto first-round matchup, which I don't think anybody's really going to complain about. Pittsburgh Penguins clinched their spot in the playoffs on Saturday, 5-2 victory over the Montreal Canadiens. There's no surprises here. Far superior team. They're heading for the playoffs. The Habs have themselves a lottery ticket. No baseball-style goal from Sidney Crosby. He did have an assist. Phil Kessel picked up his 31st. Did leave the game, though, with a bit of an injury, and we'll get an update on that coming up in our next segment from Jason Mackey of the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette. We'll talk about the Pittsburgh Penguins as they get set to take on the playoffs yet again, and the opportunity for the three-peat is alive. Alison Lukan coming up this hour as well with the latest on the Columbus Blue Jackets. Josh Cooper with the latest on the Los Angeles Kings. Abbey Mastracco covering the New Jersey Devils. And the Fantasy 5 from Stephen Laidlaw by proxy today. Hashtag Fantasy 5. At Hockey Unfiltered, at Todd Sports Twitter and Instagram handles. A busy Saturday in the NHL. We got it covered. Plus, we'll get you set for the 5 on the Sunday schedule, including Philly and Boston with an early start. Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis, back with more after the break.
The best way to get set for the busy Saturday night of hockey is with Hockey Primetime. Beginning at 5 p.m. Eastern, host Connor McKenna whips you around the league for the latest stories and info leading up to the early game starts. Plus, he'll give his own spin on the biggest stories in the National Hockey League. Hockey Primetime with Connor McKenna. Sometimes serious, sometimes a little goofy, but always interesting. Listen live at hockeyprimetime.com, 5 p.m. Eastern every Saturday. Creativity and innovation are the hallmarks of Nova Product Design. Whether it's mechanical or industrial, cutting-edge technology and a commitment to excellence make Nova Product Design the company to choose. Prototypes and beta units are a Nova Product Design specialty. Striving for revolutionary new ideas and methods keep Nova Product Design at the forefront of innovation. Visit novaproductdesign.com and learn more. Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis sends you to the biggest events at the best prices. This year, we've partnered with Seat Giant to give you special deals on tickets to NHL games, concerts, or other events. Simply go to SeatGiant.com, find the tickets you want. When you check out, use the promo code TODD for a special discount. That's promo code TODD for a special discount. Start saving with SeatGiant.com on your next purchase. Being on the World Wide Web is great. Being found is the tricky part. 1-844-SEO-LEAD. Search engine optimization is the only way your business can get a leg up on the competition. 1-844-SEO-LEAD. For the necessary tools to make your business stand out in a crowded marketplace, 1-844-SEO-LEAD. Now it's even easier to nominate your dog as the Hockey Unfiltered Dog of the Day. We do it every Saturday. Send us a photo on Twitter or now on Instagram with the hashtag HU Dog of the Day. We choose a winner every Saturday. That's simple. Now on Instagram or Twitter, send us the photo using the hashtag HU Dog of the Day, and your dog could be the one added to our gallery on the website and Facebook page. It's the Hockey Unfiltered Dog of the Day every Saturday.
This is Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis, the Sunday edition, here every Saturday and Sunday, 11 Eastern, 8 a.m. Pacific, at Hockey Unfiltered, at Todd Lewis Sports, the Twitter and Instagram handles. A busy couple of hours today. Alison Lukan will join us in a little bit. We'll talk about the Columbus Blue Jackets. Josh Cooper with the latest on the Los Angeles Kings. Abbey Mastracco covering the New Jersey Devils. And by proxy this week, the Fantasy 5 from Stephen Laidlaw, hashtag Fantasy 5, into the final stretch of the NHL regular season. Pittsburgh Penguins clinched a spot in the postseason on Saturday with a victory over the Montreal Canadiens. Jason Mackey covers the Pens for the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette. Follow him on Twitter at JMackeyPG, and he joins us now. Jason, I guess this is just step one in the business-like approach of the Pittsburgh Penguins. Get into the postseason, then let's see who we match up against and get ready for 2 months of hockey.
Yeah, it was funny. Patrick Hornquist had a really good quote last night after they did clinch a win, because you can't win the Stanley Cup unless you qualify for the postseason. And Mr. Hornquist is absolutely correct. So, yeah, I mean, this is step one. And, you know, Mike Sullivan does a really good job keeping these guys, keeping them on earth or keeping them level-headed or whatever. And this team has so many high aspirations, and they've done this now 12 years in a row, an NHL record. And I guess in a lot of cities, maybe this becomes a formality or whatever, but they did genuinely celebrate it last night. And I think it's just the way they've sort of crafted their own narrative. It's the first step in it, and you qualify for the postseason. Now we can look at their game, what needs to sort of improve. They want to be playing well. There's some room to grow there. Who's their matchup going to be? Let's try to get home ice. They've been much, much better on home ice than they have away from it. So, yeah, it's just the first step in the process, but obviously for this organization, it's one that they hope is a fairly lengthy process too.
I want to ask about a couple of areas of the game in a second, but when the celebration occurred, and rightfully so last night for the Pittsburgh Penguins with a win and clinching a spot after the victory over the Montreal Canadiens, I think it was probably extra satisfying after all the crap they took early on in the season that, they played too much hockey, this is it, their goaltending is a mess with Antti Niemi, we've got to get that straightened out, we don't have enough depth up front, we got to get that fixed. They understand that the regular season is a 6-month process. And you're right, the first step is qualify for the playoffs, but you also don't have the same team in October that you do in April.
Right. And you know, I do think there's a certain element of this just being natural. These guys were at the top of the mountain 2 years in a row. Like how I know from my own perspective, how jazzed up are you going to get about a game in November? You can only ratchet up so much intensity, and it's a long season. And, you know, I know from talking to Jim Rutherford the GM here for a quite a few times leading up to probably, I don't know, January, halfway through the season or whatever. I mean, they just kind of hoped to not lose it. They didn't expect to win the cup or win the division or anything early on. Just try to stay in the mix, play well enough, and they know that they sort of trusted that something would switch over. And I think if you gave them some truth serum, they probably would have liked it to happen a little sooner than it did. I think that was one of the issue. They kind of looked at December as a time where they thought they'd be playing better, and they weren't. But at the same time, I mean, I look at this team now and I see, Derek Brassard obviously out with an injury now, but once he gets back, drastically different third line. They're trying to, still move some pieces around and get everybody in the right place. But with Matt Murray healthy, the backup goaltending situation is a lot better. The depth on defense is different with somebody like Jamie Alexiak. They've just changed so much from that early iteration of themselves.
The other good thing for the Pittsburgh Penguins is after their game today with the Washington Capitals, which I find very intriguing from a mental standpoint, mostly for the Caps, not so much for the Pittsburgh Penguins. But after the game today, they've got a few days off. They play again Thursday at Columbus, and then they have a game Friday at Ottawa, and that's it. Then they have another stretch off before the playoffs start. They may be the best rested team going into the postseason.
Yeah, they very well might be. And it's so funny when we talk about the sort of slice the Penguin season into the start and then the middle and now the end, at least the end of the regular season. But their beginning of the season was so brutal. They had so many back-to-backs and travel and not a lot of days off. And then we got into, the holiday break and bye week. And I forget, they had something else off in there, but they had like 3 successive weeks where they had chunks of time off. And now they sort of wind down and there's a very realistic possibility, I think, that Ottawa game on Friday could be meaningless if things sort of fall the way they want to, playing 2 division teams, and if they're able to win those. And I mean, you're getting some nice time off here. They can certainly get rested. So I guess my point is just that it worked out sort of as you would expect, with a tough start and an easier finish, and then these guys are going to get their rest and get ready for the postseason. And I think we'll find out today about Derek Brassard and Phil Kessel. They're the 2 intriguing injuries, whether they're serious or whether those guys are going to play soon. But I mean, other than that, they're pretty much fully healthy.
Yeah, that was my next question. It was going to ask about Brassard, as you mentioned, and also Phil Kessel, who seemed okay yesterday for a while, and he scored that goal, but then had to leave the game. It looked like it was a slash, a hook. Some suggest it was on the hands. I thought it was kind of on the torso, but I don't know what it was like from your vantage point, but you hope that it's not too serious.
Yeah, no, it's definitely lower body. So torso could maybe fall into that category. It wasn't hand. He's been fighting some sort of arm, hand, elbow, upper body. We don't know. They're hockey coaches, for crying out loud. They're not going to tell us. Brassard is supposed to be, technically he's day to day with also a lower body injury, and so you would think he would come back soon. I don't think he's going to come back tonight. I'm talking to you right now from CPG Paints Arena. The Penguins didn't have a formal morning skate this morning, but they went on with their scratches and backup goaltender Casey Smith. I would imagine that if Brassard was going to play tonight, he would be out there with those guys. He was not. Neither was Kessel, but that's not weird. He always takes, anytime he can take his option, he will. And I don't know what his Iron Man streak is, but it's pretty significant. We've seen Kessel play through some stuff. I'm not too worried about Phil. Usually he finds a way to get on the ice. And I'm not worried about Brassard either. We've seen him walking around. The Penguins just need to make sure he is back 100% whenever the playoffs start.
Jason Mackey is with us, covers the Penguins for the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette. At @JMackeyPG is how you follow him on Twitter. Pens are in. They clinched with the victory over the Montreal Canadiens, and now they await who their opponent might be. It might be Columbus. It might not. Could be Philadelphia. Might not. Either one of those would be a spectacular series. The state rivalry, of course, is one thing, but the rivalry that Pittsburgh and Columbus have also developed, because they are in close proximity, is good. Or it might be neither of those teams, and I guess that's the good and fun part for us. But I think the Pens would probably like to know sooner rather than later.
Well, yeah, and I think they will. I really do think it's going to come down to either Philly or Columbus, depending on how these last few games fall. And this is my own personal opinion. This isn't something that's, shared by the team or something going around the room. there just has a certain feel around here to a Columbus start. And that would be a lot of fun. I think the guys in the room would really like it. There's a healthy rivalry there. I don't think it's not going to turn vicious, nasty. It'll be physical. It'll be hard fought, but I do think there's a healthy mutual respect between those two teams. And I don't know, the way Columbus has played down the stretch here has just been really impressive to me. The Penguins are kind of yo-yoing a little bit, and that kind of happened last year too, where Columbus got hot and the Penguins are still kind of finding themselves a little bit. Just has a feel with the Pittsburgh-Columbus thing. But at the same time, I mean, Penguins-Flyers would be awesome. That's always great theater. I think the one sort of area of concern in Pittsburgh anyway is if they find the Devils in the first round. Those matchups just haven't gone great. I mean, this past Thursday was good, but other than that, they've had some duds against the Devils. I'm not sure that's the greatest matchup for the Penguins just because of the speed New Jersey brings.
Yeah, I was going to say it's that speed that New Jersey has, and that we've seen from a couple of other teams around the NHL, that it's overwhelming for teams to try to defend against, because the only real way to defend it is to keep up in terms of the speed and the skating. And I'm not sure if Pittsburgh is capable of that with New Jersey.
Yeah, it's just I don't know if I share that opinion. I do think they can keep up. It's just New Jersey is one of the few teams that can hang with the Penguins skating-wise and force them to make quick decisions. And not that the Penguins want to take long and sort of delay things. They don't. They want to get going fast, but it's just such a different style. Not many teams can hang or in that conversation, and New Jersey is definitely one of them. I think the Penguins are capable. It's just such an adjustment. You're basically taking their own game and throwing right back at them.
Right. Right. Interesting. Now, the other thing with Pittsburgh is that Sidney Crosby has been getting a lot of attention lately for his infield single style hits of the puck into the back of the net. I think it's kind of quieted a little bit of the Evgeny Malkin talk in terms of the Hart Trophy and the MVP. But looking at the points total, looking at how he has produced so prolifically for the Pens, especially in the second half of the year, he's got to be one of the 3 or 4 at the top of that ballot, I think.
Still, yeah. I mean, I think a lot depends for the Penguins on whether they win the division. And if Tampa ends up becoming the number 1 overall seed and Kucherov and whatever, I can see that. If the Penguins end up, finishing out really, really strong, and let's say if Malkin kind of goes off tonight and has a good final 3 games, I could still see him being right there. I mean, he's been not as dynamic over the past few, but for somebody who has watched every minute of those, he still played really well. It's just the points haven't been coming in such amazing spurts as they were earlier in the year. But not to ignore the Crosby. I mean, he is really, really good. I think it was 5 in a row going into last night. Obviously didn't get a goal, but I do think there's a certain edge with Crosby right now. We're kind of seeing it. I don't think it sits well with him that he's not at 30 goals. I do think he's going to get it. I also don't think it sits well with him right now that we're talking so much about Gino and Phil and all these other Penguins players. I mean, it's not that Sidney needs the attention or wants the attention or whatever. I think it's just a pulling his weight kind of thing, and wants to be, he knows his value to this team. He knows what numbers should be next to his name, and I think the goal total is just a little bit less than he would like, and he's trying to remedy that and doing one heck of a job.
Is that part of his personal competitive desire too, which is off the charts high, and also probably serves the Pens well, that there's a big goal at the end of this, being the first team to get 3 in a row in the salary cap era?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And I don't think he's going to talk about any of that publicly, but
no.
He's never one that has lacked for motivation. Be it individual, be it team. Usually with him, it's way more team than it is individual. But I mean, come on, these guys are star players. They get judged on the numbers they put up. Don't kid me and tell me that he doesn't know how many goals he has, how many goals he would like, how many goals he thinks he can get, what certain markers like 30 goals say about a player and points, and we can talk about somebody else. And when Crosby has his media scrums or whatever, and we're asking him questions about Malkin and not his own game, I mean, these guys aren't stupid. I don't think for a second that they're oblivious to what's going on. I mean, I think some guys are better at not caring about it than others, but Sid wants to be the best player on the planet. He wouldn't be where he is if he didn't want to do that. So, I think that's some of what we're seeing here. But the other point I want to make on Sid too is, I mean, I've watched him play every season. It's not like his game lacked. It's not like he was struggling earlier in the season. It's just a weird thing where the puck wasn't going in the back of the net. Shooting percentage was below where he normally was, but, he's still doing all these solid things. I think one of the issues for him was just having line mates that lacked any sort of finishing ability. And he's starting to get a little bit of that now, and I think we're seeing the effects of it.
Yeah, it's cyclical. Sometimes you'll go through a stretch like that where you're doing everything right, the puck just doesn't find its way into the net, and Sidney Crosby, I guess, is no different than the rest of us. He's human. He actually is human, which is kind of nice for the rest of us. Jason Mackey covering the Penguins for the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette, at JMackeyPG to follow him on Twitter. Thanks for the time today, Jason. I always appreciate it. Look forward to talking to you again soon.
Anytime. Have a good one. Thanks for having me.
Thank you, Jason Mackey, covering the Pittsburgh Penguins. Isn't that nice to learn on a Sunday? He's human. Sidney Crosby is actually human, and there are going to be times when he does everything right, but the puck just doesn't find his way in the net. And there's also times that he does things that are superhuman in the sense of smacking the puck out of the middle of the air and finding it in the back of the net. At Hockey Unfiltered, at Todd Lewis Sports, the Twitter and Instagram handles. We'll flip and talk about one of the possible opponents for the Pittsburgh Penguins in the first round, and that would be the Columbus Blue Jackets. Alison Lukan will join us in the next segment. Josh Cooper covering the LA Kings, or as the typo says, which I'm still chuckling about, the LA Kongs. Kings, Kongs, whatever. LA will be the subject later on in the program. And Abbey Mastracco covering the New Jersey Devils as well. Plus the Fantasy 5, hashtag Fantasy 5 by proxy from Stephen Laidlaw. Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis back after the break.
Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis sends you to the biggest events at the best prices. This year, we've partnered with Seat Giant to give you special deals on tickets to NHL games, concerts, or other events. Simply go to SeatGiant.com, find the tickets you want. When you check out, use the promo code TODD for a special discount. That's promo code TODD for a special discount. Start saving with SeatGiant.com on your next purchase. Get your business started getting more leads. 1-844-SEO-LEAD. The number to call if you want more online leads for your business is 1-844-SEO-LEAD. Search engine optimization can be the difference between success and failure. It's no coincidence which businesses are listed first in Google searches. Call 1-844-SEO-LEAD. Now it's even easier to nominate your dog as the Hockey Unfiltered Dog of the Day. We do it every Saturday. Send us a photo on Twitter or now on Instagram with the hashtag HU Dog of the Day. We choose a winner every Saturday. That's simple. Now on Instagram or Twitter, send us the photo using the hashtag HU Dog of the Day, and your dog could be the one added to our gallery on the website and Facebook page. It's the Hockey Unfiltered Dog of the Day every Saturday. Cutting-edge design for manufacturing. Nova Product Design. Industrial design. Mechanical engineering and design. Nova Product Design provides experienced design for parts and assemblies, manufacturing, assembly, and serviceability. From plastic parts to sheet metal forming, mold and tool design, injection molding, and more. Nova Product Design. Visit novaproductdesign.com to learn more. So you had to get groceries, take your daughter to dance class, and a pipe burst in the kitchen. You missed Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis. No problem. All of our shows are available as a podcast right after the show airs, so you can listen when life gets in the way of hearing us live. Subscribe through iTunes and get alerts as soon as the podcast is available, or go to our website, hockeyunfiltered.com, and listen. Plus, check out the other cool stuff. The Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis podcast. Subscribe now through iTunes.
Welcome back. This is Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis, the Sunday edition, here every Saturday and Sunday, 11 Eastern, 8 a.m. Pacific, live at hockeyunfiltered.com, streaming live on the Hockey Unfiltered app, powered by Primetime Radio. Busy program coming up. We had 12 games on Saturday, another 5 today. Early hockey with the Boston Bruins and Philadelphia Flyers. Josh Cooper will join us later on in the program. We'll talk about the Kings. Abbey Mastracco with the latest on the New Jersey Devils, plus the Fantasy 5, hashtag Fantasy 5 by proxy from Stephen Laidlaw. One of the hottest teams in the NHL over the last couple of weeks, the Columbus Blue Jackets, coming off an OT loss to the Vancouver Canucks, but getting set for a contest coming up on Tuesday against the Detroit Red Wings. Alison Lukan covers the Columbus Blue Jackets for The Athletic and Cleveland. You can follow her on Twitter at Alison L, and she joins us now. I mentioned, as others have, about the Columbus Blue Jackets, Alison, not the biggest moves at the trade deadline, but a couple of really positive ones that just seem to solidify everything, and the Blue Jackets moving in the right direction now and still have a good shot at maybe finishing second in the division.
Absolutely, and thanks for having me on, as always, Todd. The Jackets made 3 really subtle moves at the time of the deadline. They brought in, perhaps the most known name was Ian Cole, coming over from technically Ottawa, but really Pittsburgh. But he solidified the defensive pairings. There was a little bit of jostling there, a little bit of inconsistency. So he really shored up the back end of the team. And then on the front end, they brought in Mark Letestu, who had previously been with the organization, who his biggest value is his versatility, special teams, good on the dot, knows the organization, had been with the Blue Jackets before. And what he did was then stabilize that fourth line. That had been a line that the Jackets had had some trouble with all year, playing with some youth, not really finding a really steady combination that allowed Torts to trust them with some equal minutes to roll 4 lines. So that's what Letestu did. And then you bring in Thomas Vanek, who, you know, everyone knows his MO, an offensive guy, and that's exactly what he's done. It's kind of crazy. Once again, with another team, here he is, one of the most productive lines in this latest rush that the team has been on, has been the line of Thomas Vanek with Alexander Wenberg, and interestingly, Boone Jenner on the other side. So nothing splashy, nothing I think anyone was heralding as the greatest moves ever, but they have proven to be really strong for this team.
And it's just kind of, as you mentioned, just kind of helped everybody out, bolstered a little bit, added a little strength in a few different areas. And what it did was it was allowing the players that were already on the roster the opportunity to flourish a little better in their roles because of a little extra depth, a little bit of extra support, whether it be on defense or whether it be on the forward lines. We've seen better performance out of some other players. I usually mention Sonny Milano at least once when I talk about the Blue Jackets, but he's one who's also been helped by a little extra support, and he's been a nice boost down the stretch.
Absolutely. I mean, you couldn't have said it better. That's exactly what these guys have done. And I think in the case of a guy like Sonny Milano, what we've heard a lot from the players now post-deadline is that this is a very young team. There are really talented guys on there like Sonny Milano, but who are still very young, not just in terms of chronological number, but also in an NHL career. And so this group of guys really saw what management did at the deadline as a vote of confidence, as a, hey, we believe in you. That, I think, settled some nerves. And then you also now have guys like Thomas Vanek and Ian Cole, who we are learning are really active communicators in the room, help settle nerves of guys like a Sonny Milano, like a Pierre-Luc Dubois, who are going through these kinds of experiences. They're excited, but it's a first time, they're trying to figure all this out. And so I think not just on the ice, but off the ice, this veteran presence of these additions helped cool the nerves of these younger guys so that they can, like you said, go out and perform even better.
And you almost hate to think, okay, where would this team be without these additions, with the injury to Nick Foligno, who's going to miss some time?
Yeah, that was a crazy series of events. It's always funny. You look at the team kind of building up depth, particularly post-deadline, and you kind of say, gosh, do they need this many folks sitting there on the scratched list every night? And then it gets called upon. Nick Foligno goes down. Josh Anderson looks to be getting close, but he is still out with a knee injury. Lucas Sedlak takes a puck to the head a couple games ago. So having those 3 out, 3 guys who have been around the team, been solid for the team most of the season, all of a sudden, just to your point again, that depth kept things consistent and kept the lines reliable, even with bigger key players out of the lineup.
Alison Lukan is with us. She covers the Columbus Blue Jackets for The Athletic Cleveland. Follow her on Twitter at Alison L. Only 3 games left for the Columbus Blue Jackets. It's Detroit, it's Pittsburgh, and it's Nashville. The Detroit game, I guess, is manageable, but 2 tough ones, and it's going to be interesting to see. And maybe it's the Pittsburgh game that might tip the scales as to whether or not Columbus can finish second in the division, depending on what Pittsburgh does between now and then. But is it Columbus and Pittsburgh that you want in the first round, or is it the cliche, we're just happy to be here and we'll face anyone in the first round?
Well, I do think that first and foremost, it's of most importance that this team truly make it to the postseason. If you ask anything about the playoffs, Tortorella will cut you right off because he'll remind you they're not yet. And I think that's the interesting point of that Detroit game, is that this group can't get caught looking ahead to Pittsburgh and not be all in that Detroit game. As far as the matchup, I think it's really interesting either way. I think that there is value in the Jackets facing off against another team. This would be the third consecutive playoff appearance where the Jackets open against Pittsburgh, and there's a little bit of mental gaming going on there now. So there's value in saying slay the dragon that's bested you all these times. But there's another key part of getting to the postseason the Jackets really need to consider, and that's the play of Sergei Bobrovsky. He has not played well historically in the postseason. And so I'm torn a little bit, because do you care if the Jackets play Pittsburgh again? And if Bobrovsky struggles, you now don't know if it's a Penguins problem or a postseason problem. So there's an angle there, because he's going to be up for some contract discussions next season. So that's a key thing you have to answer. Pragmatically, I think it's important that the fan base and the team, recognize that ultimately to get to a cup of any kind, they're probably going to have to go through Pittsburgh. So why question avoiding it? But there could be value in trying to find a different dance partner just for evaluation's sake. And honestly, there might be some more favorable matchups for this team outside of Pittsburgh, because as always, this time of year, Pittsburgh just looks deadly.
Yeah, and it's as much as anything, it just kind of gives you a mental boost. If you face someone else and you come away with a victory in that series, the momentum you can gain from it is pretty significant, I believe.
Exactly. I think that's that thing is, do you want to keep going up against the same opponent and you have to go through them to get any forward progress? Or do you want that, just refresh, to wipe the slate clean and try against another group? You can argue it either way, but quite frankly, it's looking like it's going to be Pittsburgh.
You mentioned a couple of seconds ago in terms of how the matchup goes against the Pittsburgh Penguins. Alison is in the process of doing this trilogy, giant, enormous series about and I hate to use the A word, analytics. So I'll call it statistics and how the Columbus Blue Jackets use that in terms of gaining knowledge about their team and about their matchups and the like. And it's quite interesting. And there is a bit of math involved, which is challenging for me. But I think it's really interesting stuff that everybody does. Everybody uses statistics and numbers, but the Jackets are maybe doing it a little differently.
Yeah, it's interesting, and I think it's valid for all of us to think about when we talk about analytics or any kind of numbers, that they have to be used differently by different parts of the organization. Your scouts are going to look at certain numbers differently to answer different questions. Same for your management, same for your players, et cetera, so forth. And what's really kind of unique, I think, first and foremost, is that Tortorella is one who gets a rap of not believing in analytics. He'll even dig on them himself, but he always knows scoring chances. He always knows shot attempts. He's even asked the team this year to start tracking a stat that he came up with, which is to track how many plays right out of the defensive zone travel north-south versus east-west, because that is how he has designed how this team should play, is that active defense moving the puck up the ice. And so he shares that percentage with the team after. So their whole philosophy is, it's not a secret that we're using the numbers. The magic comes from how we use the numbers and what are the questions we ask of the numbers. So it's been unique to see how from the top down, there are different kind of cuts of data that everyone's looking at to answer different questions.
And I guess because it's numbers and people have an immediate aversion to analytics and numbers and that word analytics, that's when everyone's eyes glaze over. But if you're not at least open to the idea of examining ways to improve yourself, you're not going to progress. You're not going to get any better.
Absolutely. And I think that, the other thing, and I understand how some people got to the perception, but I don't think any team or any part of any business that's using numbers to make decisions, if they're only using numbers, then that's not the best approach either. And that's certainly not what I believe successful hockey teams who use a lot of analytics are doing. They use them in concert with the eye test. When we talk to the coaches about how they use analytics, they look at the analytics quite a bit, but they also do a lot of video work hand in hand with that. Because a number can't tell us exactly what kind of shot someone took. A number still can't tell us what kind of coverage a player was in, or what kind of decision making was available to a player when they made a pass or a shot or a decision with the puck. So you can never rely fully on them, but I think if you leave the information that these numbers are telling us on the table and don't even consider them, you're hurting your chances to be as successful as you can be.
That's a really good point about, you can say it's a shot, but what kind of shot was it? Was it a good shot? Did it serve the purpose? It also leads me to one more question about another piece that you did in the last couple of weeks in terms of how to examine who is the best defenseman in the National Hockey League. Because I really like that. It's really enjoyable, and there are numbers and there's colors and charts and everything, which is cool. But it also brings up a few really good points in that there's other categories that could be and perhaps should be considered when determining whether it's a Norris Trophy voting or in terms of ranking defensemen, because it mentions situations, whether it's 5-on-5 and whether it's an offensive or defensive zone. And these are things that don't necessarily get looked at by someone who's just saying, oh, well, player X is the best defenseman. That's right. Yeah,
and I'm a frustrated defenseman myself, so maybe it's a little selfish understanding, but it has been just kind of the biggest question for me for quite some time on how do we rightly evaluate defensive play? Because you're really measuring the absence of something happening, right? A prevention of a goal, a prevention of an offensive thing happening that hurts your team. And, we look at points, and Seth Jones is the player that's in a lot of Jackets fans' minds this year. I can't tell you how many times I watch him make a play on the ice and I remark on it. Oh my gosh, did you see that play? But it's not a play that in any way, shape, or form is quantified or measured. But I do believe that those plays, when I see them, have an influence on the Jackets' ability to win a game. And so it's interesting, and I think we just need to start acknowledging for right now that this is part of the issue with an award like the Norris, is that we have nothing really well defined to say what makes a good defenseman. So we look and say, well, what's really the biggest ask of a defenseman? Well, that's to score. So then we end up looking at points, which really isn't a defensive play, but that seems to be what's influencing those kinds of decisions the most right now.
Yeah, absolutely. But that's an interesting look at it, though. Is it's about what doesn't happen versus what does happen on the ice, and you're right. It's finding a way to quantify that, because we look at so many great defensemen, and one of the ones in your piece that's mentioned is Nick Lidstrom, but he wasn't known as being strictly the giant offensive output defenseman, which gets too much attention. He was an incredible defensive player.
Right. And that's, I think when I talked to the players for that piece, I talked to as many defensemen as I could. And, my first question was, how do you define a good defenseman? And his name came up so many times. And I asked guys, I'm like, what do you guys see that people like me sitting up in the press box or fans in the stands don't see? And they can't even necessarily define it, but they mention after mention of it's the little plays. It's the stick that breaks up the pass. It's the positioning. There are so many things that players appreciate that they see influence the game that I just don't think we necessarily have a reliable way to, and you don't want to make it just X's and O's, right? Because there's an art to this game, but there's no real science to appreciating the work of a good defensive player.
That's Alison Lukan, and The Athletic in Cleveland is where she's covering the Columbus Blue Jackets. You can check out these pieces, a couple of really good ones. Follow her on Twitter at Alison L. Always enjoy the conversation, Alison. Appreciate it, and I'm sure we'll be talking again soon. Thank you.
Sounds great. Have a good one.
Thanks, Alison Lukan, covering the Columbus Blue Jackets, and a couple of really good pieces about examining how data is used. I'm trying to avoid using that A word that gets so many people upset. It's, instead of saying analytics, whether it's data, statistics, numbers, something else, but how you look at it. And if you're not using it as a tool along with all of the other tools, then you're missing out on something. At Hockey Unfiltered, at Todd Lewis Sports, Twitter and Instagram handles to follow us. Lots to get to. Finish up this hour, and then hour number 2, Josh Cooper will join us with the latest on the Kings. Abbey Mastracco is back covering the NHL and covering the New Jersey Devils. Will be with us in hour number 2, plus the Fantasy 5, hashtag Fantasy 5 by proxy from Stephen Laidlaw. Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis back after the break.
Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis sends you to the biggest events at the best prices. This year, we partnered with Seat Giant to give you special deals on tickets to NHL games, concerts, or other events. Simply go to SeatGiant.com, find the tickets you want. When you check out, use the promo code TODD for a special discount. That's promo code TODD for a special discount. Start saving with SeatGiant.com on your next purchase. Look, we know it happens. Life gets in the way and sometimes you can't catch the live edition of Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis. But we've made it easy for you to catch up on the show you might have missed. Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis is available as a podcast on iTunes, iHeartRadio, and Blog Talk Radio. You don't want to miss an episode. If you miss the live show, check out the podcast. Don't miss any shows. There's a test coming up later. Subscribe now. Get your business started getting more leads. 1-844-SEO-LEAD. The number to call if you want more online leads for your business is 1-844-SEO-LEAD. Search engine optimization can be the difference between success and failure. It's no coincidence which businesses are listed first in Google searches. Call 1-844-SEO-LEAD. Use the code Get the Savings. Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis listeners save with Seat Giant and the promo code TODD. That's TODD at SeatGiant.com. Just log on to SeatGiant.com to find the best tickets to NHL games, concerts, or whatever you want and save. Use the promo code TODD. That's TODD when you check out and you save. Canadian listeners can save at SeatGiant.ca. That's SeatGiant.com and .ca. Cutting-edge design for manufacturing, Nova Product Design. Industrial design, mechanical engineering and design. Nova Product Design provides experienced design for parts and assemblies, manufacturing, assembly, and serviceability. From plastic parts to sheet metal forming, mold and tool design, injection molding, and more. Nova Product Design. Visit novaproductdesign.com to learn more.
Welcome back. This is Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis, Sunday edition, flying by. First hour almost done. Hour number 2 with Josh Cooper coming up, talking Los Angeles Kings. Abbey Mastracco will join us as well. We'll look ahead to some of the games on today's schedule. Just 5, but some interesting matchups with Boston and Philly being the early matchup. Boston Bruins try to extend that lead in the Atlantic over the Tampa Bay Lightning. The Lightning are in action a little bit later on, hosting the Nashville Predators. Good matchup there. For Boston, by the way, no Riley Nash today, was hit in the head with a puck yesterday. No Brandon Carlo as well. He suffered ankle, leg, foot, some sort of injury, helped from the ice on a stretcher, which was kind of tough to watch. Yeah, that sort of hurt. But well, the Bruins have survived all these injury issues all season long. We'll see what happens in the next little while. Washington at Pittsburgh, Colorado at Anaheim as well. Oh, yeah, looking forward to that. Bunch of good games today and over the next week of the NHL regular season. It's going to be interesting to watch. I found out some really interesting information this past week as well about safety for players in the NHL. We've seen a bunch of really gruesome injuries this year from skate cuts, and probably one of the most recent ones in terms of skate cut was David Backes of the Bruins, who missed time. He's back skating, but he's not back yet. Jeff Carter had that nasty skate cut earlier in the season. It required surgery. He was off for months. Of course, the one that everybody still talks about is Erik Karlsson of the Ottawa Senators, had his Achilles sliced by a skate. With even greater awareness, some new materials, there still doesn't seem to be a product that protects NHL players in terms of skate cuts, especially to the Achilles and other vulnerable areas. Gloves have gotten shorter and shorter. We've seen players get cut on their arms and around their wrists and the like because of the space that's open between the glove and the elbow pad, not to mention that your necks are exposed and vulnerable as well. Last week, I met Greg McNeil, who spent a lot of time and a lot of money developing a product to make the game safer for NHL players, same as anyone else when you put on skates, when you go out on the ice. Pro players, house league players, beer league players, doesn't matter. Yes, the NHL and the league has adopted safer materials for hockey socks. They're cut resistant, but they don't really do as good a job as you would like. Name of Greg's company is Safe Gaps. You can check out their website. It's called safegaps.com. The material that he's using and developing and bringing products on has undergone some really serious testing against the current materials that are being used, and it's far superior. It's not heavy. It doesn't restrict movement of players. It won't impact their performance. It'll make it safer. It's not if, but when a player is going to be in a collision or some sort of coming together out on the ice and the skate blade comes up, and there is always the potential for serious injury to result. This product, as I've seen it, and I tried it because I took out my knife on my chopping block at home and tried to cut through it, and you can't. It's amazing. It's amazing how cut resistant it is. There's no product available to the public yet, but if you go to the website, safegaps.com, you can check it out. It will be coming online soon. There's some cool information, and you can see a pretty cool demonstration that Greg is wearing a shirt that has a knife taken to it, but he is wearing this cut-resistant material underneath, and it's safe. So soon available will be Achilles guards, wrist guards, and also coming are neck pieces that'll be available for sale. They're not yet. Go to the website. You can learn a bit more. You can check it out. We'll put up the link. The cost to make the game safe for you, for a loved one, for kids, less than a hockey stick. Less than a brand new, spiffy, cool hockey stick. I don't care if you're playing in a beer league. Doesn't matter if it's house league. This is originally thought of and designed to make the NHL game safe because you've got 12 players out on the ice who have knives strapped to their feet, essentially. And accidents happen. There are collisions that result. And anything that can make the game safer, we got to be looking at it, and I think it would be a help. There's a whole procedure for testing and certification, for NHL approval, for new equipment, and rightfully so. So you want to make sure it works. You want to make sure it doesn't cause any other issues. This product is licensed to a big-name manufacturer. It works. I've seen it. I've tried it. It doesn't restrict movements. There are players that are currently using this material as part of their protection in the NHL. And the other thing that you have to get past is convincing players to use it because of the aesthetics. How's it going to look? How's it going to feel? Am I going to be okay with it? They're so finicky and superstitious with their equipment. And there's an overt amount of concern for, don't want anything that restricts my movement. Don't want to do anything different. I've got these ones. They feel good. How does it look? Does it look cool? Do I look good in it? It's true. Players will do that, whether it's a new helmet or whatever. It's how does it look? And appearance is really important. Well, these are going to look like shooter sleeves, whether you're wearing them around your ankles to protect your Achilles or whether you're wearing them around your wrist or the neck guard as well. They look good. They don't restrict movement. Taylor Hall's wearing wrist guards right now. And if he's the statement on it doesn't restrict movement because of the season he's having, maybe just kind of look to him. I think that would be a good indicator. But it's a pretty cool product. It'll be coming online in the next couple of months. Safegaps.com is the website you can go to check out for more information. Hour number one has flown by. Hour number two of Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis coming right up after the break.
So you had to get groceries, take your daughter to dance class, and a pipe burst in the kitchen. You missed Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis. No problem. All of our shows are available as a podcast right after the show airs, so you can listen when life gets in the way of hearing us live. Subscribe through iTunes and get alerts as soon as the podcast is available, or go to our website, hockeyunfiltered.com, and listen. Plus, check out the other cool stuff, the Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis podcast. Subscribe now through iTunes. Get your business started getting more leads. 1-844-SEO-LEAD. The number to call if you want more online leads for your business is 1-844-SEO-LEAD. Search engine optimization can be the difference between success and failure. It's no coincidence which businesses are listed first in Google searches. Call 1-844-SEO-LEAD. Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis sends you to the biggest events at the best prices. This year, we've partnered with Seat Giant to give you special deals on tickets to NHL games, concerts, or other events. Simply go to SeatGiant.com, find the tickets you want. When you check out, use the promo code TODD for a special discount. That's promo code TODD for a special discount. Start saving with SeatGiant.com on your next purchase. Nova Product Design is designed for manufacturing. Nova Product Design can get the job done with mechanical and industrial design. Nova Product Design is also fully functional for laser cutting, water jet cutting, plating, coatings, and more. Nova Product Design, innovative design and the latest technologies. Nova Product Design can design, build, and test any required types of prototypes and beta units. Visit NovaProductDesign.com. We're looking for your Hockey Unfiltered Dog of the Day nominations every Saturday. Now you can send them through Instagram. Use the hashtag HUDogoftheDay, send us a photo of your dog on Twitter or Instagram to nominate them as the HU Dog of the Day. Include your name, the dog's name, and any other cool details you want. We choose a winner and add them to the Dog of the Day gallery on our website and Facebook page. It's the Hockey Unfiltered Dog of the Day every Saturday. Hashtag HU Dog of the Day.
This is Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis.
Ready to go, hour number 2. First one was fun, flew by, interesting discussion, lots of good topics. We'll get into it again in hour number 2. Little West Coast talk with Joshua Cooper from NHL.com covering the LA Kings. Or there was a little funny autocorrect typo on the lineup from our producer Chelsea Guy. I'm like a goofy kid giggling about it. The LA Kongs. The LA Kings and the LA Kongs with Josh Cooper. Abbey Mastracco is back covering hockey, and we're happy about it. She's covering the New Jersey Devils for the Record Sports and NorthJersey.com. She will be with us in this hour. And also, by proxy this week, Steve Laidlaw from DobberHockey.com. I needed a little family time. We're happy to give it to him because he's given so much of his time all through the season. Fantasy 5, hashtag Fantasy 5 by proxy this week from Stephen Laidlaw. At Hockey Unfiltered, at Todd Lewis Sports, Twitter and Instagram handles to follow us. A busy 12-game Saturday in the National Hockey League. Teams are locking themselves into the postseason. Pittsburgh Penguins did it yesterday with a victory. Florida lost earlier in the day. That clinched it for the Pittsburgh Penguins. They're in 12 straight. Now, who are the matchups going to be? We'll find out over the next few days. It's going to be fun to watch and see what happens. We had some good, some fun, some exciting on Saturday, and a little, maybe we could avoid that. From the Department of Player Safety, they have announced that Ian Cole's been fined $5,000 for a nasty trip in the Vancouver game with Columbus against Vancouver. No word yet on what's going to happen with Scott Hartnell of the Nashville Predators, who was taken on Sabres defenseman Victor Antipin. Antipin goes behind the net, plays the puck, up the boards. The puck is gone. He gets pounded from behind, face first, into the glass by Hartnell. And Hartnell, of course, given 5 in a game. Antipin left on a stretcher. He was taken to hospital and released. No, I do not believe Antipin turned, put himself in a vulnerable spot. In fact, quite the opposite. In the replays I watched, he looked like he was trying to absorb the hit on his side, more so than on the numbers on the back. But that's not where Hartnell hit him. Face first, into the glass, unnecessary hit. As much as anything, it's dumb and unnecessary. The puck is gone. It's late. There's no need for that hit. And even if you are of the belief that, oh, well, he just wanted to rub him out after he had played the puck, and you don't think that it's late, you don't hammer him from behind so that his head hits the glass and he winds up on the ice motionless. He got hammered from behind, and Scott Hartnell should get hammered with a suspension. If you were with us yesterday, you heard me talking about the matchup that I got my fingers crossed for next weekend. St. Louis Blues, Colorado Avalanche play their final game against one another, the regular season, on Saturday. Both teams facing off, winner take all, winner gets into the playoffs. How good would that be? Blues got thumped by Arizona Saturday. Both teams have got 92 points. Both teams have got 40 regulation or overtime wins. Both teams have 4 games remaining on the schedule. Come on, let's have this happen. This would be great. Bad news for the Colorado Avalanche yesterday afternoon, though. Semyon Varlamov suffered a lower body injury, out for the season. Defenseman Eric Johnson is out 6 weeks with a broken patella. That hurts. However, Avs have survived some injuries before. We have seen teams that have been impacted significantly by injuries survive. Boston Bruins were taking on the Philadelphia Flyers in the afternoon. Lost a couple more players yesterday. Brandon Carlo left the game on a stretcher, twisted his foot underneath his body as he went to the ice. That doesn't look good. Riley Nash, puck in the head. He left the game. Neither has traveled to Philadelphia. Minnesota lost defenseman Ryan Suter in a nasty-looking lower body injury. It's being suggested by some that it might be a broken bone. Minnesota is hoping that is not too serious. We saw also on Saturday proof that referees don't always make calls in favor of the Toronto Maple Leafs and give them the benefit of the doubt on all calls while calling everything against their opponent because the league wants Toronto to win. Irrefutable evidence of that on Saturday. Leafs are hosting Winnipeg. Some trying to suggest this is a possible Stanley Cup preview. Slow your roll. That's reaching, people. Long way to go. Second period of this game, the puck goes toward Toronto goaltender Curtis McElhinney. He covers it up, and Jets forward Mark Scheifele is headed toward the net and sort of seems to accidentally, but as much as that on purpose, bump into him and actually clunked him in the head pretty good. Curtis McElhinney stayed down on the ice for a couple of minutes. The Leafs came a call in to say, hey, what's that all about? No penalty called on the play. No penalty called on the play. I don't know what Steve Kazari was watching, because that was the referee who was in position right at the side of the net, who watched the play happen and come toward him. And I watched it on replay again and again and again from the ref cam that Steve Kazari was wearing. I don't know how that's not a penalty. No, I guess Curtis McElhinney wasn't completely inside the blue paint, but you know what? Doesn't matter. He's covering up the puck. And I don't think that Mark Scheifele did as much as he could to avoid him. Especially when you watch it on the replay from the ref cam. I don't know what Steve Kazari's thinking. No call. Seconds later, Scheifele goes to play the puck, and Jake Gardner delivers a cross-check to the ribs on Scheifele, and he gets whistled for 2. Rightfully so. That was a penalty. But so was the hit on Curtis McElhinney. And what happens, of course, Winnipeg Jets score on the power play, 3-1 Leafs. 3-1, the Winnipeg Jets defeat the Maple Leafs. Taylor Hall showed Saturday why he's going to get some consideration for MVP. He is carrying the Devils forward. Goal number 35, goal number 36. Well done. Edmonton and Calgary didn't turn into a complete gong show the way I thought might happen, but it did get a little silly in the third period. Milan Lucic going at it with Mike Smith with a hack and whack. Then Lucic and Tanner Glass have to fight. Mark Jankowski, Drake Kajula fight a little bit earlier. Did get a little silly, did get a little stupid, but didn't get completely out of hand. 2 teams playing out the string. It's going to be interesting to see how different both of these organizations look next year. Not just the players on the ice, but in terms of coaching staff and management as well, because I think there could be changes for both. And in fact, I mentioned this on the Little Saturday podcast on Wednesday. Midweek on Wednesday, we have a Little Saturday podcast. It's a bit of weekend in the middle of the week. Just some hockey topics. They drop Wednesday afternoon. You can check them out on our website or on the Hockey Unfiltered app, all powered by Primetime Radio. I think it's going to be interesting to see that we have gone through this whole season, minus a week, but I'm not expecting anything to change. But we'll go through this whole season without any NHL coaches getting fired. And I think it's great. I think it's really good that we're now seeing management and ownership take long-term views of this. There have been some great coaching displays this year. A lot of coaches have done really good work. Well, I'll maybe talk about awards next week, but Gerard Gallant's going to be the coach of the year. I mean, it's just too nice a story with Vegas, especially last night. The way they clinched going into the playoffs, they've got their top spot in the Pacific. William Karlsson, between the legs goal, shorthanded, game winner. It's just too good a story that Gerard Gallant is going to be the coach of the year. But there have been a lot of good performances. Mike Sullivan's been great in Boston. Dave Haxtell, remember when they were asking for him to get chopped and they lost 10 straight? Right move. He stayed. John Hines in Jersey has been terrific. Paul Maurice has been good with the Jets. Pete DeBoer in San Jose. Jared Bednar. If Vegas doesn't come in, Jared Bednar is winning. But with all the coaching jobs, everything remaining stable for the entire season, it's not going to be that way come fall. I do not expect all 31 coaches in their current positions to be there when the NHL season for 2018-19 begins next fall. There's going to be a 24, 48-hour window, I think, after this season finishes, that it's going to be like Black Monday in the NFL. I think there's going to be a few go. Which coaches might not be back? It could be a lot. We didn't have any all season. We could have a bunch of changes before next year. Ottawa, Guy Boucher wears out on players. Happened in Tampa, happened in his previous spots. Jeff Blashill in Detroit. Yeah, that's possible. Islanders, if John Tavares is staying and he doesn't want Doug Weight there, he won't be there. Alain Vigneault and the Rangers, is he the right guy for a rebuild? Is that possible? Carolina Hurricanes. Elliot Friedman of Hockey Night in Canada reported that Bill Peters apparently has an out in his contract. There is a clause that allows him to move on. Does that get exercised? I don't know. Maybe. But these are all realistic possibilities. And there's others as well, depending on how well teams do in the playoffs. What if the Columbus Blue Jackets implode? Is John Tortorella back next year? Same thing for the Washington Capitals. What if they've gone on and had this great surprising season? They look like they may be finishing top spot in the division. No one expected that. Knew there was going to be a big turnover. But then they fold up in the playoffs. Is Barry Trotz back again? It's a realistic question. Out west, there's a whole bunch there as well. With all that has gone wrong in Edmonton, it would be foolish to assume that Todd McLellan is a slam dunk to return. I don't think he's the issue. I don't think he's the problem. I think the roster is a mess. And I'm not sure how you're going to fix that. Well, I know how I would want to fix it, but I'm not sure that Peter Chiarelli and the management group is going to fix it properly. Is someone going to have to get sacrificed because of the disappointing season that the Edmonton Oilers have had? Now, Todd McLellan will be working again in the fall if he wants to, if he happens to let go. Same with Bill Peters. Calgary. Is Glenn Gulletson going to be back next year as the head coach of the Calgary Flames? I don't think that's a slam dunk. Calgary's just been, last night's victory over Edmonton aside, they've been terrible the last couple of weeks. And it's not just because they've been missing players. They've been bad. They've had their character questioned. Glenn Gulletson's had a couple of meltdowns this year. There could be changes there, not just with the coach, the head coach, but others in that staff. I wouldn't rule it out for Dallas either. Yes, I know. Could Ken Hitchcock be a one-year wonder in Dallas? But this team has disappointed. There were high expectations for the Dallas Stars this year. Brought in Radulov, made a bunch of other moves, got their goaltender, Ben Bishop, who's been dinged up as he has been in the past. What happens there? I think that's going to be an interesting worth watching. And again, if teams get into the postseason and don't succeed as they're expected, does the tenure for certain coaches end? Like Randy Carlyle in Anaheim, who have had a struggle with injuries and a battle just to get into the playoffs. If they fold up and go out early, does Randy Carlyle follow them? Minnesota. Now, the injury to Ryan Suter, if that's serious, that's going to hurt them. But if Minnesota doesn't have a good playoff year, what happens with the Minnesota Wild and Bruce Boudreau? And that hasn't even touched on the situation in Chicago yet with Joel Quenneville and all the speculation is, do they want him back? Does he want to come back? Do we get an announcement that says, well, Joel Quenneville and the Chicago Blackhawks have decided to immediately part company mutually, the way we did with Todd McClellan a couple of years ago in San Jose? I think that's a realistic possibility as well. There could be a lot of changes. So just go quickly through that could be a third of the league potentially that's changing and shuffling their head coaching over the summer. That's the time to do it, though, not during the season. I'm glad that we haven't had a rash of coach firings during the year. But if you want to make fixes and get moving in the right direction during the summer, would be the time to do it. At Hockey Unfiltered, at Todd Lewis Sports, we'll talk LA Kings coming up in our next segment with Josh Cooper. Also coming up, Abbey Mastracco will join us. Latest on the New Jersey Devils. Nice win last night. And Stephen Laidlaw's Fantasy 5, hashtag Fantasy 5 by proxy later on this hour. Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis, back after the break.
There's special savings for Hockey Unfiltered listeners with our new ticket partner, Seat Giant. And Canadian fans can also purchase in Canadian dollars. Go to SeatGiant.ca, find the tickets you're looking for. Doesn't matter if it's NHL games, concerts, or any other event. You get a special discount with the promo code TODD. That's Todd with 2 Ds. Just enter the code, get the discount, you save. That's simple. Save on your next ticket purchase with Hockey Unfiltered and Seat Giant. The best way to get set for the busy Saturday night of hockey is with Hockey Primetime. Beginning at 5 p.m. Eastern, host Connor McKenna whips you around the league for the latest stories and info leading up to the early game starts. Plus, he'll give his own spin on the biggest stories in the National Hockey League. Hockey Primetime with Connor McKenna. Sometimes serious, sometimes a little goofy, but always interesting. Listen live at hockeyprimetime.com, 5 p.m. Eastern every Saturday. Search engine optimization is the key to success for your online business. It can be the key to success for any business. 1-844-SEO-LEAD is the number to call to get your business at the top of all searches. An official partner of Google, they have the tools necessary to make your business the one people notice first. 1-844-SEO-LEAD. Now you can nominate your dog or any dog you love as the Hockey Unfiltered Dog of the Day through Instagram. Every Saturday, Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis will take your nominations for the Dog of the Day. Use the hashtag HU Dog of the Day. Send us a photo with the dog on Twitter or Instagram to nominate your dog. We choose a winner at the end of the show, and your dog will be recognized in the HU Dog of the Day gallery on our website and Facebook page. Hashtag HU Dog of the Day. Creativity and innovation are the hallmarks of Nova Product Design. Whether it's mechanical or industrial, cutting-edge technology and a commitment to excellence make Nova Product Design the company to choose. Prototypes and beta units are a Nova Product Design specialty. Striving for revolutionary new ideas and methods keep Nova Product Design at the forefront of innovation. Visit novaproductdesign.com and learn more.
Welcome back. This is Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis. It's the Sunday edition here Saturdays and Sundays, 11 Eastern, 8 a.m. Pacific at hockeyunfiltered.com. Streaming live on the Hockey Unfiltered app, powered by Primetime Radio. At Hockey Unfiltered, at Todd Lewis Sports, Twitter and Instagram handles to follow us. Busy show for the rest of it. Steve Laidlaw's Fantasy 5 by proxy coming up. Hashtag Fantasy 5, Abbey Mastracco with the latest on the New Jersey Devils. And Josh Cooper joins us now from NHL.com. There was a typo, Josh, on the lineup list that I read earlier that I have been giggling about since. I just want to clarify, you cover the LA Kings versus the LA Kongs, which was written on my lineup earlier. Is that correct?
Yeah, no, I contribute to their website, so that's sort of the LA Kongs. No, we're not on Skull Island.
Okay.
You okay there? Yeah. Yeah. No Kings here as far as I know.
Just wanted to be clear on that. I'm sorry. I've just been giggling and silly about it all morning, because it keeps striking me as really funny. But I want to talk about the game, first of all, the other night against the Anaheim Ducks. 2-1. It's an overtime loss for the Los Angeles Kings. The final of the freeway face-off build games. But this was a sensational game between these two teams. I thought it was some of the best hockey I've seen all year. Really good game.
I mean, the one thing with these two teams is that even when there's absolutely nothing on the line, they just never seem to disappoint. And when everything's on the line, it seems to really kind of pick things up. And that game was a fantastic game, back and forth. Overtime was excellent. You just had Jonathan Quick and John Gibson just going, basically just putting on a clinic in regards to goaltending. You had the Kings coming off a back-to-back, trying in any way, shape, or form to get a point. You had the Ducks trying as hard as they could to get 2 points and try to do it in either regulation or overtime, because we know that they're kind of lagging behind in regards to regulation overtime wins. So overall, just a very, very good game. And a game that really, if you had, you know, the NHL, I don't think it was a nationally televised game. So if you had the NHL package and you stayed up to watch it, you were really treated to something that was quite excellent. Because really, at the end of the day, I mean, no matter, even though it's somewhat cliche, the overall quality of play really does pick up in the playoffs. Teams really just push it much harder. And to me, that type of game was a real playoff style game. I know, again, it's cliche, but you really, both of those teams, to me, played the type of game that you need to play in the postseason. And that's why it was such a good game overall.
Yeah, and also penalty free, which I find really interesting. But you can have that type of game, high intensity. It was physical, and there were better than 50 hits in the game, but it doesn't have to evolve into the stupid either.
Well, let's face it. I mean, you know, the greatest referee of all time, Wes McCauley, was calling that game. So, you know, like that probably played a big role in the fact that he just let the boys play. So, I mean, no, I mean, if you follow me on Twitter, you know, I have kind of a I don't know, a cult appreciation of Wes McCauley, so to speak. I
was going to say man crush, but yeah.
I wouldn't go that far. But he does call a very good game. You know, the NHLPA poll listed him as far and away the best referee in the league in regards to how the players voted in that. So he knows how to call a good game. He knows how to let guys play. He knows how, you know, when to sort of hang back and when to move forward and kind of step in. So overall, and on top of that too, the players just play within the whistles, and that helps an incredible amount in regards to just enabling the gameplay and the flow of that game to be fantastic.
And it's vitally important too for Los Angeles, who have 94 points currently in the NHL, but it's still very undetermined where they are going to finish this season in the standings. 3 games remaining, 94 points, currently sitting third. You want to stay out of the wild card spot because you don't know what you're going to get. I don't know if you want to go up against Vegas in the first round. I don't know if you want to fall and potentially go up against a Nashville. It's precarious in the final week in terms of what the standings look like for the Los Angeles Kings, not to mention the other teams who are fighting it out.
Well, I mean, let's take a step back, and I mean, you're talking about first round playoff matches. I think they want to just get in first. And look, I mean, if there's one team that knows at the end of the day, you just have to beat the team that's in front of you, it's the Kings. You know, we could talk about matchups all we want, but at the end of the day, it really is just about lining up against the other team and just beating them one-on-one. And I think the Kings understand that more than anyone, just based off some of the runs that they've had in the past and the way that they won those 2 Stanley Cups, especially the first Stanley Cup when they were an 8th seed. So, I think in today's NHL, yes, there is a certain matchup quality or a matchup kind of deal, so to speak. But it's just about beating the guy in front of you, because the salary cap does level things out to such a degree that an 8th seed like LA was years ago can win the Stanley Cup, or Nashville last year, being the last team in the playoffs, was able to go on that type of run that they went on. So I think that if you get too much into matchups, then and I think that this is in some respects why the teams that faith and claw to get in the playoffs do so well in the playoffs, is because they just have that mentality of beat the team in front of you, beat the opponent, whoever you're playing the next night. Whereas teams that can set things up going into the postseason worry about matchups, overthink, okay, if we play this team, it's going to be this. If we play this team, it's going to be that. I think that just teams that go out and play and have that mindset going into the postseason generally set themselves up really well. So, but at the end of the day, I mean, the Kings, look, they're 2 points ahead of I'm looking at the things right now, 2 points ahead of the Colorado Avalanche, and the Avalanche have a game in hand. They're 2 points ahead of the St. Louis Blues, who are in the last wild card spot. The Blues have a game in hand. They're 1 point ahead of the Ducks, and the Ducks have a game in hand. I mean, this could sort of fall back on the Kings a little bit if any of those teams can pick up a point. I mean, I know the Ducks and Colorado are playing today, so you know, it's still pretty precarious for them. I think that they're in a good spot, but you just never know. And I mean, to me, the big equalizer in this playoff run, the Western Conference, has been the Blues just going absolutely on fire the last month of the season. I don't think anybody saw that, and that's the big reason why you have this sort of, I guess, logjam in the postseason situation, trying to get into the playoffs between all these teams.
Well, for those of us that are watching, we're enjoying it thoroughly, that it's going to fight and go down to probably the final game of all of these teams through the regular season next weekend. Josh Cooper is with us, covers the Los Angeles Kings for NHL.com. At Joshua Cooper is how you follow him on Twitter. The LA Kings with 3 games remaining, currently sitting 3rd in the Pacific Division. There's been a lot of talk about how Dion Phaneuf coming over to the Los Angeles Kings has helped stabilize their defense, help add some depth, add some maturity to their defense. He also popped a couple of goals right away, which got him a bit of attention. But I really think that it has been that good an addition for LA to add Dion Phaneuf in terms of what it brings to their defense to help stabilize that top 4.
Well, it's interesting because when they said they made the trade, I just sort of looked at it and I was like, wait, you're adding, you know, a guy who, yes, like he played a pretty good role in Ottawa, but hasn't been the sort of elite kind of Norris Trophy defender that I guess we thought he was going to be, or I guess we thought he was going to be for his entire career when he first started out in the league. But he has fit so well on this team, on that second pairing, and he stabilized a lot of things. One of the things that the team has said is that he brings kind of that Matt Green type quality that they haven't had in a long time in regards to just that excitable sort of, I guess, personality, so to speak, in the locker room, where he just he speaks a lot, speaks on his mind a lot, keeps things loose on the bench, is able to just kind of talk a lot and just keep guys, I don't know, just over a long season can keep them entertained, so to speak. And I think he's been an incredible fit for them. And he's a guy, they had scouted him for a long time. Apparently they were on him at the draft last year. At least that's what Rob Blake said when they made the trade. And showing really that they knew what they were doing when they were scouting him. Because the other thing too was they were able to give up Marian Gaborik, which was a really difficult contract for them. It just was one that wasn't working out. He was making a lot of money for a number of years left on that deal. And to be able to give up a guy who was in and out of the lineup, playing 10 to maybe 14 minutes a night, and adding a guy who's a second pairing shutdown defender, averaging 19-10 for them right now, looking at his stats at the moment, 10 points in 23 games, which would equate to somewhere in the close to the 40-point realm for an entire season for them. I think is overall a win for the Kings. I mean, he just brings so much more to them than what Marian Gaborik was giving them at this juncture of his career. And to be able to get rid of Marian Gaborik's contract, and yes, Phaneuf's contract's not wonderful either, but they do have Ottawa picking up part of it, really changes the dynamic of this team overall and helps a lot.
Oh yeah, absolutely. The other thing in terms of, talk about a bad contract, which Marian Gaborik had, which the comeback this season of Dustin Brown has amazed me. Up to 23 goals this season. His production, his output was it simply that he was not being utilized properly? And is that it? Or is there something else that has also brought about the turnaround of Dustin Brown? Kopitar having a pretty good season also doesn't hurt.
Well, yeah, both those guys seem to have really stepped up their games this year. And one of the things that I remember John Stevens, the coach, saying early on in the season was that he's the guy, Dustin Brown, whose game was trending kind of upwards at the end of last season. And when you look at it, I mean, yeah, he had a bit of a better year last year. His numbers went up a bit, and it probably was just taking and he's a guy who always puts himself in great shape. He's a guy who is very physically fit. And I think it just basically took the coaching staff saying, all right, we have faith in you that you're going to be a first line guy. We're going to put you with with Anze Kopitar. And really, those two players haven't separated all year, except for a couple times here and there when they wanted to move Brown down to try to increase scoring a little bit in the lower lines and try to give some other guys an opportunity with Kopitar to find their games. But he's been tremendous. So when you watch him play, just the way he forechecks, the way he gets the puck along the boards, the way he's able to find those open areas and cause havoc around the net. He's got an excellent shot too. I mean, one of the things you forget about Dustin Brown is he can really just let it rip and do it relatively quickly too. He's got a very quick release. I mean, he's really found himself again and provided that sort of scoring on the top line and leadership that you expect out of him. And I don't know if this team is where it would be without him, just because he's been so good for them and so consistent at so many levels. And look, I mean, I understand that people look at plus minus as a bit of an overrated stat, but I mean, plus 30, like, you can't deny the fact that he's doing something right when he has that type of level to his game in regards to just being on the ice, when his team is scoring versus giving up goals. So overall, I think Dustin Brown has been a tremendous player for this team and has really found his game, or rediscovered his game at the age of 33. That's a pretty difficult thing to do, but he's been able to do it.
Yeah, it's surprised me. Hey, one more quick one, Josh, just before I let you go. Because the race is so wide open this year, how good a chance do you think Anze Kopitar has for MVP?
I mean, I wrote about this for LAKings.com. I mean, to me, every game, and granted, I mean, remember, I've watched the majority of the games I've watched them in Kings games, and I watch Kings games from a Kings angle, but pretty much every game I've watched, with the exception of maybe one or two, he's been the best player on the ice and the most important player to his team on the ice, and that included 2 games against Edmonton. So, I mean, I think no player in the NHL provides the level of scoring and defensive awareness that he does, and all situational ability. To me, he's the MVP of the NHL. I think he's been absolutely tremendous. I don't know if anyone impacts the amount of areas of a certain game the way Anze Kopitar does. The team does have to make the playoffs probably for him to win the MVP, but he has been absolutely outstanding. To me, a tour de force of a hockey player. And I was sitting back and I was thinking, in my time working in hockey, and even before that, just watching hockey, if there has been a player who has impacted that amount of various areas of the game in a season, and maybe you have to go back to like Sergei Fedorov when he won the Hart Trophy and Selke Trophy. I think it was '94 when that happened. I can't think of a player who's been able to just play at this level the way Kopitar has. He's been, to me, just an absolute horse. He has been, to me, the most important player in hockey to his team this year, and to me, he's been far and away the best all-around player without question.
I'm interested to see how the vote comes out when the results are announced. Josh Cooper covering the Los Angeles Kings. At Joshua Cooper is how you follow him on Twitter. Josh, thanks for this. Good stuff as always. I hope we can do it again soon.
Thanks for having me on. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Josh Cooper covering the Los Angeles Kings. I'm glad that the voting ballots are going to be released by the Professional Hockey Writers Association this year to see who votes for Kopitar and who actually stays up to watch the late games with the Los Angeles Kings. At Hockey Unfiltered, at Todd Lewis Sports Twitter and Instagram handles. We'll shift back to the East and talk a little New Jersey Devils in our next segment. Abbey Mastracco covering the New Jersey Devils. Fantasy 5, hashtag Fantasy 5 before the top of the hour. Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis, back after the break.
The best way to get set for the busy Saturday night of hockey is with Hockey Primetime. Beginning at 5 p.m. Eastern, host Connor McKenna whips you around the league for the latest stories and info leading up to the early game starts. Plus, he'll give his own spin on the biggest stories in the National Hockey League. Hockey Primetime with Connor McKenna. Sometimes serious, sometimes a little goofy, but always interesting. Listen live at hockeyprimetime.com, 5 p.m. Eastern every Saturday. Creativity and innovation are the hallmarks of Nova Product Design. Whether it's mechanical or industrial, cutting-edge technology and a commitment to excellence make Nova Product Design the company to choose. Prototypes and beta units are a Nova Product Design specialty. Striving for revolutionary new ideas and methods keep Nova Product Design at the forefront of innovation. Visit novaproductdesign.com and learn more. Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis sends you to the biggest events at the best prices. This year, we've partnered with Seat Giant to give you special deals on tickets to NHL games, concerts, or other events. Simply go to SeatGiant.com, find the tickets you want. When you check out, use the promo code TODD for a special discount. That's promo code TODD for a special discount. Start saving with SeatGiant.com on your next purchase. Being on the World Wide Web is great. Being found is the tricky part. 1-844-SEO-LEAD. Search engine optimization is the only way your business can get a leg up on the competition. 1-844-SEO-LEAD. For the necessary tools to make your business stand out in a crowded marketplace, 1-844-SEO-LEAD. Now it's even easier to nominate your dog as the Hockey Unfiltered Dog of the Day. We do it every Saturday. Send us a photo on Twitter or now on Instagram with the hashtag HU Dog of the Day. We choose a winner every Saturday. That's simple. Now on Instagram or Twitter, send us the photo using the hashtag HU Dog of the Day, and your dog could be the one added to our gallery on the website and Facebook page. It's the Hockey Unfiltered Dog of the Day every Saturday.
Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis. It's the Sunday edition here every Saturday and Sunday, 11 Eastern, 8 a.m. Pacific, live at hockeyunfiltered.com, streaming live on the Hockey Unfiltered app, powered by Primetime Radio. Take you up to the top of the hour, get you set for 5 Sunday games in the NHL. She left the sport for a while. She's changed from the West Coast to the East Coast, but we're thrilled to have her back covering the NHL. Now all over everything that's happening on the New Jersey Devils with NorthJersey.com and the Record Sports. Follow her on Twitter at Abbey Mastracco. You couldn't stay away from the NHL, could you, Abbey? You had to come back. And apparently we've lost Abbey. Oh, that's a shame after such a big build-up. And the New Jersey Devils getting set for a game today against the Montreal Canadiens. It's, oh, boy, those Montreal Canadiens. Lost last night to the Pittsburgh Penguins. Now they have another tough game against the New Jersey Devils. Devils were winners on Saturday night, 4-3 against the New York Islanders, excuse me. Taylor Hall having another unbelievable game. Another unbelievable game with goal number 35 and goal number 36. We're just talking with Josh Cooper about Anze Kopitar in consideration for the MVP award. Taylor Hall has to be getting some consideration for that award because he has been in on so much scoring for the New Jersey Devils. 88 points, now with 36 goals, 88 points. That is 38 clear of second place on the New Jersey Devils scoring list. I mean, he is involved in so much of the Devils scoring. He is the most valuable player to his team by definition, if you will. Now, that doesn't always mean that the voters use that standard in terms of voting, but he's got to get some consideration. He's got to get some votes. And yes, there will be the whole, if the team doesn't make the playoffs, does that disqualify the player from being under consideration? What if for some reason the Devils don't make the playoffs? I think they will, which means Taylor Hall will get some consideration. But what about the Colorado Avalanche, for instance? If they don't make the postseason, does that mean Nathan MacKinnon doesn't get any consideration? If LA doesn't get in, does Anze Kopitar not get any consideration? Apparently, we have Abbey back now. Abbey, you couldn't stay away from the National Hockey League. We're glad to have you back covering the New Jersey Devils.
It's good to be back. It's been kind of a whirlwind couple weeks. You know, I was down in Florida for spring training until like last week, I think, or 2 weeks ago. I can't even remember at this point. So it's been a very quick transition. So it's nice to have somewhat of a working knowledge, having, you know, been in hockey for a little while. But this is my introduction to the Eastern Conference. So it's I'm happy to be back.
It's nice. It's nice to have you back, and you get to watch one of the best players in the league this year, Taylor Hall. I was just talking about whether he should be get consideration for MVP, even if the Devils don't make the playoffs. I think they will, but even if they don't, there's that part of it. But he has just been such a dominant force, and even in your abbreviated time covering the team this year, what a treat he is to watch out on the ice with 2 goals last night.
Well, I watched him quite a bit in Edmonton, having covered the Pacific Division for about 4 or 5 years. It's clear that this style of play suits his game. He told me a few days ago he feels like the last 2 seasons playing in the Eastern Conference, his legs have felt fresher towards the end of the season because he's not playing that big, heavy forechecking game that you have to play in the Western Conference. But the one thing I've noticed about Taylor Hall is that he makes everybody else on the ice better. I mean, his vision and awareness is just amazing. It's so innate, and everybody else on the ice is just almost hyper aware and hyper alert when Taylor Hall is on the ice, because you know that he's going to make something happen.
Yeah, it's just a treat to watch. He's becoming must see TV whenever the New Jersey Devils are playing out on the ice. And the other interesting thing about the Devils this year is that recently Keith Kincaid has been the guy in goal. It hasn't been Corey Schneider, who we all expected at the start of the season, but good for Keith Kincaid to come up big when the Devils need him the most.
Yeah, you know, the one thing I would say about the goalie situation is, moving forward into the playoffs, I think it's important to establish your number 1 or number 2, just so there's no confusion. But it's a really great asset to have in the playoffs. If you've got a number 1 and a 1A rolling into the playoffs, I mean, that's a tough team to beat. That's almost invaluable to have 2 number 1 goalies in a playoff run. Kincaid has been, you know, he does his best to kind of keep the play calm, or keep the situation calm. He never really gets too emotional. You know, he's not like a Jonathan Quick goaltender who's getting super upset and smashing his sticks everywhere. If he lets something through, it's kind of like, it's okay, let's reset, we got this. And the guys in front of him stay really calm as well, from what I've noticed. Now, granted, I have not been able to see that much of Corey Schneider, but in talking to him, he seems like he's taken this in stride. He does not seem like he's bothered by it. He's still on the ice, getting in extra work every chance he can get. So, like I said, the only thing that I would say about is going into a playoff situation, you're going to need to establish who's 1 and who's 1A. Having 1 and 1A is pretty good.
Yeah, and that's becoming more and more of a thing in the National Hockey League. We're seeing that it's not necessarily one guy who plays every game, even in a long postseason run. We have seen teams, though, that have needed the help of their second goaltender. Chicago wouldn't have won the Stanley Cup a few years ago if Scott Darling wasn't around early on. Matt Murray for the Pittsburgh Penguins last year was Marc-Andre Fleury, who played so much early on before Matt Murray came in and took over. And it's important to, yes, I agree with you, but also the Devils are in a great spot having both those goaltenders who are proving to be valuable to them.
Well, remember, I did watch Bruce Boudreau second guess the goalie situation. Was 3 straight playoffs in Anaheim. I mean, there was a Jonas Tiller versus Freddie Anderson, and then Jonas Tiller versus John Gibson in 2014. And the next year it was Freddie took him into the playoffs, so we weren't sure if John Gibson was going to get in. And then the next year Gibson was pretty underwhelming, and they wouldn't put in Freddie. So it's just, well, from what I have taken from those Anaheim playoffs, is that when you don't establish who the number 1 and number 2 is, it can cause some discourse in the locker room. I actually almost said clubhouse there.
That's okay. We'll let it go. It's not a big deal. You're still working through the transition. Abbey Mastracco is with us covering the New Jersey Devils for the Record Sports and NorthJersey.com. You can and should follow her on Twitter at Abbey Mastracco. Next up for the New Jersey Devils, a game against the Montreal Canadiens today, Sunday, and then it's the Rangers, the Maple Leafs, and the Washington Capitals to close out the season. I was really impressed with New Jersey as well as they finished up that lengthy road trip a little earlier in the month of March. They finished it up with a victory in Pittsburgh in overtime. Then the next night came back home and won a real tight, close one against the Tampa Bay Lightning. And also, I think a lot of people overlooked the Carolina Hurricanes, and that would have been trouble for the New Jersey Devils. But they did get that win last week against the Carolina Hurricanes as well. They have won and defeated the teams below them in the standings when they needed to in a situation like that. And the same thing with Montreal today. If they can win and get 2 points today, that will help them immensely in their quest to lock up a playoff spot.
Yeah, they got to keep their foot on the gas. They can't. These could easily be trap games. The Islanders came out with a really hard push in the third period last night, and they didn't stop until that final buzzer, and they kept it pretty consistently at a 1-goal game, and things could have unraveled, but these guys are playing playoff type hockey right now. These games all feel like postseason games right now. They're emotional, they're chaotic, and one of the things that John Hines was preaching earlier this week was that he needed the team to embrace the sort of chaos and the momentum swings because they're going to get even more intense in the postseason. And if you know how to react and move on from them now, you're going to know how to react and move on from them in the postseason.
And yeah, they'll have a game like that probably against the Rangers, which is a good rivalry game for the New Jersey Devils as well, which is good if they're having that intensity up. They're playing playoff type games. As you mentioned, at this time of the year, that's good for them. A victory there would certainly help them lock up a playoff spot. Do we have any update on Kyle Palmieri from last night as well? He left the game early.
Don't have any update on Palmieri. There was nothing it looked like a cut under his eye, but the fact that he didn't come back, obviously leaves some questions there. But Marcus Johansson was activated today, and we don't know if he's going to skate tonight. He is with the team in Montreal, so if Kyle Palmieri were to go out, I have a feeling Marcus Johansson would be able to step in. He was cleared for contact a few days ago, but not cleared for play. He has now been cleared for actual play, so I think we're going to see his return pretty soon.
Oh, that'll be a nice boost for New Jersey Devils. It was good that he got back, and after missing so many games, it was 20+ games after that shot to the head, and having the concussion difficulties. It's good to get back because he'll bring some more offensive ability plus some speed to that lineup.
Offense, playmaking ability. He's a nice two-way player, but he's going to bring a big morale boost as well. I mean, these guys have kind of rallied around him, and he was very vocal about saying that was a dirty hit, and this team still has a little bit of a chip on their shoulder about losing one of their guys like that, as any team would. So it's going to be on the ice, off the ice, in the dressing room at the house. Johnson's return is going to be a big boost for them.
Abbey Mastracco covering the New Jersey Devils for the Record Sports, NorthJersey.com. At Abbey Mastracco is how you follow her on Twitter. We're glad to have you back, and we look forward to talking New Jersey Devils and NHL hockey with you again soon, Abbey. Thank you.
Thanks for having me, as always. Good to be back.
Appreciate it. Abbey Mastracco now covering the New Jersey Devils. She's gone from the West Coast back to the East Coast, and she gets to watch Taylor Hall and the New Jersey Devils on a nightly basis. Good for her. At Hockey Unfiltered, at Todd Lewis Sports, Twitter and Instagram handles will take you up to the top of the hour. It's an early start for NHL action on Sunday with the afternoon game between the Bruins and the Philadelphia Flyers. No Riley Nash, no Brandon Carlo. They did not make the trip with the Boston Bruins. Both were injured in the game against the Florida Panthers on Saturday. We'll look at the games today. The rest of the week, 1 week to go, and then it's playoff time in the NHL. Plus, in the next segment, by proxy, hashtag Fantasy 5, the Fantasy 5 from Stephen Laidlaw. Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis, back after the break.
Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis sends you to the biggest events at the best prices. This year, we've partnered with Seat Giant to give you special deals on tickets to NHL games, concerts, or other events. Simply go to SeatGiant.com, find the tickets you want. When you check out, use the promo code TODD for a special discount. That's promo code TODD for a special discount. Start saving with SeatGiant.com on your next purchase. Get your business started getting more leads. 1-844-SEO-LEAD. The number to call if you want more online leads for your business is 1-844-SEO-LEAD. Search engine optimization can be the difference between success and failure. It's no coincidence which businesses are listed first in Google searches. Call 1-844-SEO-LEAD. Now it's even easier to nominate your dog as the Hockey Unfiltered Dog of the Day. We do it every Saturday. Send us a photo on Twitter or now on Instagram with the hashtag HU Dog of the Day. We choose a winner every Saturday. That's simple. Now on Instagram or Twitter, send us the photo using the hashtag HU Dog of the Day, and your dog could be the one added to our gallery on the website and Facebook page. It's the Hockey Unfiltered Dog of the Day every Saturday. Cutting-edge design for manufacturing, Nova Product Design. Industrial design, mechanical engineering and design. Nova Product Design provides experienced design for parts and assemblies, manufacturing, assembly, and serviceability. From plastic parts to sheet metal forming, mold and tool design, injection molding, and more. Nova Product Design. Visit novaproductdesign.com to learn more. So you had to get groceries, take your daughter to dance class, and a pipe burst in the kitchen. You missed Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis. No problem. All of our shows are available as a podcast right after the show airs, so you can listen when life gets in the way of hearing us live. Subscribe through iTunes and get alerts as soon as the podcast is available, or go to our website, hockeyunfiltered.com, and listen. Plus, check out the other cool stuff. The Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis podcast. Subscribe now through iTunes.
Welcome back. Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis, the Sunday edition. Screaming by today. A busy show. Lots of good conversation and discussion, though. After a busy Saturday in the National Hockey League with 12 games, it's a 5-game Sunday schedule and some pretty interesting matchups through the rest of the week. I'm hoping that it all lines up for next weekend with St. Louis and Colorado playing on Saturday. Those two teams dead even right now in the standings. Oh, it would be great to see those two teams playing for the final playoff spot in the Western Conference. A lot of ground to cover between now and again. There's the same number of games for both teams, and then they face off in the final game. We promised, because he is away today with family time, and we understand that. We're happy that he has given us so much of his time and expertise all season long. The managing editor of DobberHockey.com, Stephen Laidlaw, at Steve Laidlaw, to follow him on Twitter. He has sent us this week's Fantasy 5 by proxy. So some help for you in your fantasy hockey pool as we finish up the NHL regular season. Steve will be back with us again next weekend, the final Sunday of the NHL regular season. And the only reason there are games that day, there's one, is because it's a makeup day with the Florida Panthers and the Boston Bruins from earlier this season. But Steve will be back with us next Sunday, his final appearance of the year, with help for you in the playoff pools, which will be getting going. We should have the matchups and teams that are in by then. Just the game between Boston and Florida remaining. It should line up that we should pretty much know what's going to happen in the NHL postseason for the first round. So we will get you some fantasy help playoff edition from Steve Laidlaw coming up next week. But before then, by proxy, this week's Fantasy 5, hashtag Fantasy 5. We'll put this up on our Twitter page, up on our website, our Facebook page, and Instagram as well. Name number 1 on the Fantasy 5 this week, Kyle Connor of the Winnipeg Jets. Boy, there's been so much talk about great rookies this year in the National Hockey League. Kyle Connor in Winnipeg has really started to come on and get some attention. Matt Barzal's winning Rookie of the Year. I think that's pretty much a slam dunk. But if Kyle Connor is on your roster, you are reaping the benefits right now. Also, a recent addition to the roster, this one for the Boston Bruins, Ryan Donato, signed in the lineup, scoring goals, producing points, producing for the Boston Bruins, and making waves as soon as he gets in. That is Ryan Donato having a big impact already on the Boston Bruins lineup. A veteran that is healthy, named number 3 on the Fantasy 5, hashtag Fantasy 5 from Stephen Laidlaw this week. Healthy and productive is Chris Kreider of the New York Rangers. Yeah, sure. Just because it's not a great team doesn't mean that there aren't players that can help you in the final stretch of the fantasy hockey pool. And we'll look at other names once we get into the playoffs, of course, but this is the final week of the NHL regular season. And the same situation with Derek Stepan of the Arizona Coyotes. Coyotes who have been playing much better hockey in the last little while, surprising some teams, getting some attention of teams, hopefully building a little bit of good karma and a little bit of momentum heading into next season. Still going to be lots of changes, still got lots of questions about the Arizona Coyotes, but Derek Stepan is one who is helping out. And Ty Ratty playing on Connor McDavid's line, as Steve writes here in the note, water skiing on McDavid's coattails. But hey, if there's a great player on the roster and you can get one of the others on his line, whether it be a winger or a center, there is opportunity for you in the fantasy hockey pool. And Ty Ratty of the Edmonton Oilers would be another one. Quickly, once again, here's the Fantasy 5, hashtag Fantasy 5 from Steve Laidlaw for this week. Kyle Connor of the Winnipeg Jets, Ryan Donato of the Boston Bruins, Chris Kreider of the New York Rangers, Derek Stepan of the Arizona Coyotes, and Ty Ratty of the Edmonton Oilers. 5 games on the Sunday schedule, Boston and Philadelphia with the early start. No Riley Nash, no Brandon Carlo, both out with injuries. A really good game should be starting at 6 p.m. Eastern with the Tampa Bay Lightning playing host to the Nashville Predators. Yeah, 2 good teams, one from the East, one from the West. The Canadians were all excited, Canadian networks and the like were all excited about Winnipeg and Toronto playing on Saturday, billing it as a potential Stanley Cup preview. Nashville and Tampa, you can make a legitimate case for. New Jersey Devils are in Montreal to take on the Canadians. No word yet, as we just got from Abbey Mastracco, who covers the New Jersey Devils, no word yet on Kyle Palmieri and whether he'll be in the lineup. Marcus Johansson, though, has been activated, which is good news for the New Jersey Devils. Washington at Pittsburgh, one final meeting between these two division rivals before the playoffs start. Will they match up? Not likely in the first round if it happens, but could it be another second round matchup between the Washington Capitals and the Pittsburgh Penguins? I think this game is kind of important mentally for the Washington Capitals. Haven't seen word on who's going to start in goal yet for the Washington Capitals either. Another interesting question. Colorado Avalanche and the Anaheim Ducks. Colorado out west. They have a couple of games out west before, 3 actually, before they head home to host the St. Louis Blues next Saturday. Also coming up and worth keeping an eye on, St. Louis Blues are in action against the Washington Capitals. It'll be the back half of a back-to-back games between Colorado Avalanche, so they'll be in Anaheim to take on the Ducks, the Washington Capitals in St. Louis, excuse me. That's the second half of back-to-back for Washington as they take on the Blues. Colorado is in L.A. on Monday. Boston and Tampa, final meeting of the season. This one could determine who has top spot in the Atlantic Division. Heading into play on Sunday, it is the Bruins that hopped back out in front of the Tampa Bay Lightning with a victory against the Florida Panthers. They are 1 point ahead. Both teams would like to have top spot, would like to have home ice advantage for as long as they could. Whoever finishes second is going to get Toronto in the first round of the playoffs, which will be interesting for both. If you're the Leafs, I don't know that there's a particular favorite that you want to get to. I don't know that you have wishes of either team in the first round because both are going to be really difficult. Wednesday, it's Chicago and St. Louis, Minnesota in Anaheim. A couple of games with at least a little bit of a meeting. The final night of the Wednesday night hockey for Sportsnet in Canada. Boy, is this a dog. Ottawa Senators and Buffalo Sabres. Boy, is that just a nasty, awful game to have. Thursday, it's Nashville and Washington, which will be interesting. Pittsburgh and Columbus. That, too, could be a preview of a first-round matchup in the Stanley Cup playoffs. I don't know if I'm Columbus, if I want that one or not, but you know what, as we were talking earlier, maybe it's best to get them right away. If you're going to slay the dragon, might as well do it in the first round. St. Louis is in Chicago. I'm really hoping for that St. Louis and Colorado matchup on Saturday next week. If we can line it up that it's a winner-take-all and determine who gets into the postseason, that would be perfect. But there's going to be an awful lot of shuffling in the standings, both East and West, before next season. Our thanks to the proxy of Steve Laidlaw for the Fantasy 5, to Abbey Mastracco, to Josh Cooper for joining us, also earlier today for Alison, Lukan, and Jason Mackey of the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette, all for joining us on the program. Final week of the NHL regular season. 1 week from today, there is one game, a makeup game between the Florida Panthers and the Boston Bruins. And then, after a couple of days to catch your breath, we're backing into it with 2 months of Stanley Cup playoffs. Have a great week of hockey. Enjoy the final week of the regular season. Back with you again next Saturday and Sunday, live at 11 Eastern, both days.
Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis sends you to the biggest events at the best prices. This year, we've partnered with Seat Giant to give you special deals on tickets to NHL games, concerts, or other events. Simply go to SeatGiant.com, find the tickets you want. When you check out, use the promo code TODD for a special discount. That's promo code TODD for a special discount. Start saving with SeatGiant.com on your next purchase. Look, we know it happens. Life gets in the way and sometimes you can't catch the live edition of Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis. But we've made it easy for you to catch up on the show you might have missed. Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis is available as a podcast on iTunes, iHeartRadio, and Blog Talk Radio. You don't want to miss an episode. If you missed the live show, check out the podcast. Don't miss any shows. There's a test coming up later. Subscribe now. Get your business started getting more leads. 1-844-SEO-LEAD. The number to call if you want more online leads for your business is 1-844-SEO-LEAD. Search engine optimization can be the difference between success and failure. It's no coincidence which businesses are listed first in Google searches. Call 1-844-SEO-LEAD. Use the code Get the Savings. Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis listeners save with Seat Giant and the promo code TODD. That's TODD at SeatGiant.com. Just log on to SeatGiant.com to find the best tickets to NHL games, concerts, or whatever you want and save. Use the promo code TODD. That's TODD when you check out and you save. Canadian listeners can save at SeatGiant.ca. That's SeatGiant.com and .ca. Cutting-edge design for manufacturing. Nova Product Design. Industrial design. Mechanical engineering and design. Nova Product Design provides experienced design for parts and assemblies, manufacturing, assembly, and serviceability. From plastic parts to sheet metal forming, mold and tool design, injection molding, and more. Nova Product Design. Visit NovaProductDesign.com to learn more.